Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I'm Kim, and I have a guest with me today. I have Robin Hopkins with me, and we are going to have such a great conversation. I can feel it already. We were just chatting for a couple of minutes, and I know that this is going to be a great conversation. But
What
before
if it stinks, Kim? I'm just saying.
what if it stinks, we're still going to air it because this is freaking Masks Off, and Masks Off means we show up imperfectly. So if it's terrible, it's totally fine. It's going one way or another.
I love it. I love it.
So as always, I'm going to start with a quote, and the quote is one that Robin is sharing, and she will explain a little bit more about it once I read it. So here it is. There, but for the grace of God, go I. Take it away. What does that mean?
I can't even tell you how hilarious it is that a quote from the Bible came out of my mouth. But I do love that quote, and it has particular significance for me because my mom used to say it all the time. But what I find hilarious about it, and when you break down the quote, it is pretty amazing. It's very much like, that could be me. I'm over here. I'm blessed. If we're hashtagging blessed, if we're still doing that, which I don't think we are, but I did it. But my mom used to say it all the time. And what was so hilarious, again, and when I use the word hilarious, I mean like comedy is tragedy plus time. And there's been enough time that it's now hilarious. But my mom was a bit of a drunk. Like, I don't know, maybe she made $17,000 a year. She was, a single mom, like just a rotation of bad boyfriends, like the half-deaf plumber named Tommy who just used to yell her name all the time. It's like, and so the idea that she would be saying, and I was just like, who exactly has it worse than you? Like, who is the person you're pointing to? Have you checked in on your own life? So poor Rosie. But somewhere she's laughing now. She's not lost. She died. I just have to be clear. She's not just like lost and wandering the earth.
She's passed.
Boy, I came in hot on this podcast. I came in hot.
Yes, you did. And I love it. But there is such a gem of a message behind that. And,
Oh, yeah.
there's such a gem of a message. So I'm so glad you chose it and you explained that. So I love that. And now if you would just be willing to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself in your own words. Tell us who you are.
Well, I am Robin. I was born a small white baby in upstate New York. No, I'm not going to do it. We're not going that far back.
Wait a second. Did you really in upstate New York?
Yeah. Are you from upstate New York?
I am from upstate New York.
Okay. I'm from Homer. Where are you from? It's like central New York near Cortland, Ithaca, up there.
Okay. So I'm near Albany, the capital.
Oh, okay. All right. I love how you had to tell me the capital. Like you thought I was so dumb I didn't know it was the capital. I love that.
I know. I'm so sorry.
No, the best part is you're like, it's the capital. Like you're very proud of that. And I like that for you.
And
I like that for you.
We'll be talking about my perfection mask shortly. So you can see how that plays in. I'm from
I love it.
Okay, go ahead. So you're from upstate New York.
Yes. So I'm from upstate New York. I won't take you that far back. I'm an actor. I'm a writer. I'm a podcaster. I have a podcast called Well Adjusting that's just came out in late October, which I'm really proud of. And I'm a producer. I'm a mom of two. I'm doing the very best I can not to break those kids. And to like, as we talk about, because you've given the nod that we'll be talking about, patterns and histories and family cycles. I'm doing the very best I can not to repeat many that were handed to me. But I screw it up all the time. I mean, it's like literally I should have the therapy jar for my kids. And when they graduate, I should just be like, here, please don't spend it on booze. Like actually get a therapist with this money. That's what I should do, but I'm not. So,
And who doesn't?
I mean,
right?
Come on. I mean, that's part of parenting is you're going to screw it up. It's just, to me, the difference is what I'm trying to do versus what was done to me. Because I do think it is 2 or 4 or around whatever, is I'm trying to clean up the messes. That's my whole, I guess, focus as a parent.
All right, let's go there, Robin, because you already took us there. So let's go.
It's my fault is what I heard.
And then if you want to share more of your background and what you do as we continue to talk, by all means, weave it in. But we're there. So let's go there.
We're here.
We're here. So, okay. So you are trying not to mess up your kids
Yeah.
in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
What would you say are the biggest patterns or maybe masks, 'cause this is masks off, that
Yeah.
you have worn or continue to wear that you know is maybe somehow playing out and wreaking havoc on your kids or
Sure.
in any part of your life?
I mean, obviously, like I touched on the fact that my mom was an alcoholic, my father was as well. So I don't want that to repeat. So, I mean, that's, to me is just if you have addiction issues, getting help there. But, I think that the biggest thing is that I came out a person who I came out of chaos. So I'm always trying to control and fix and make sure everything is perfect because it wasn't perfect for me. I mean, there was like a period of time in my 20s, and that's why it's so funny that I'm doing well adjusting now. Because I was famous with all my friends for getting people on the ropes. And that would be like, we're 3 drinks in at the bar. And I'd be like, all right, let's talk about your childhood. You're like, what happened there? Like, if they were in a
In
breakup,
your
I'd be like,
20s,
well,
you're doing this.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And like in the bar, and they'd be like crying, and they were just like, why are you doing this? I'd be like, it's good for you. It's really good for you. Let's get in there. And, it's like, but in all seriousness, I think somewhere I recognized along the way that, I mean, I really truly thought I was being helpful. Like I was like, look at me, I got the help. But what I realized later was that I was so uncomfortable with other people's, whether it be trauma or like life issues, that I just was trying to fix it. And it wasn't for a long time that I realized like, oh, like, I don't know if they want my help. I know nobody asked. And, and so what's interesting about well adjusting is that as I've gotten older, I've come to a place where I'm like, I don't know if that person genuinely needs, or like if someone seeks it out, my insight or my thoughts, I'm going to definitely give it to you. And I'm probably going to give it to you sometimes, even if you don't ask, but I'm much more controlled and I'm much more pointed about when and how I do that now, because I recognize it was about me and being uncomfortable around chaos. But so it's so funny that I started a podcast where I'm giving advice to, people in their 20s and 30s. But again, it's people who are coming with a question, who, and it's more, I'm sharing life hacks and stuff like that. But I think really the through line in terms of masks off is that I cannot help myself. It will be a lifetime battle of that fine line between, wanting to be there for people and being okay that things are not okay. Because if you grow up in chaos, you're often, you're the only one, or as my therapist once said, like, speak an I, Robin, speak an I. But I was, I felt like I was the only one. Like if I wasn't driving the ship, we were going to go down. Yeah. And, that becomes a big through line it became a big through line in my life.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you shared that. Oh my God. The universe always gives you what you need when you need it.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth?
And what you're saying is like exactly, well, first of all, I want to name one thing first before I make another comment. I want to name that it sounds like what you were wearing is like the rescuer mask.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Your mask, yeah. The fixer.
Yep.
And I'm so right there with you that it was so uncomfortable for me to experience or witness another person's pain and suffering, that I had to do whatever I could do to fix it, stop it, control it. Like thus at the age of 9 is when the perfection mask was born for me. Because if I perfected, performed, and pleased, then maybe I could calm the chaotic environment and everyone could then be, I had this little girl fairy tale, wave my magic. Literally, I used to think I would wave a magic wand. Or do you remember, are you old enough to remember Bewitched or I Dream a Genie?
Yeah. Like
okay,
the twinkle the nose.
With the nose. I would
yeah.
think that I could be her and just like twinkle my nose and just all of a sudden like everyone would be happy. Everyone would be okay. No more screaming, no more fighting.
Yeah.
no more dysfunction, no more pain. Like that's when it really started for me. And that's why I please, performed, and perfected.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I love that you say that. So
Isn't that so
now,
interesting though, that it really can't be fixed. Nothing can be fixed. Things are what they are, but and it's all very 12-steppy too.
yes,
Like that
yes,
whole like relinquishing control and surrendering, like all of those things, and just letting them be okay. Because, and this is okay. So I was once at a restaurant with my friend, and there was a guy behind me. New York City restaurants, you're right on top of each other.
yes.
And in his chair, he was hitting the back of my chair, and I kept giving the angry 3/4 nod. When you turn your head and you give the little 3/4 nod, like,
Yes.
like at the movies, like, shut up. And I
Yes.
kept doing that. And I, and I was getting, I'm escalating inside. It's like getting hotter and hotter and hotter because I have a temper. And my friend reached across the table and she grabbed my hand and she said, honey, she said, move your chair. And I was like, and the thing, that the wrestling with wanting to be right and needing to let him know how wrong and angry I was, but who was I hurting? Me.
Yourself.
Yeah. It's like I needed him to know he was hurting me, and I was willing to hurt myself in order to hold on to that righteousness. And I slid my chair forward and we continued to have, and it's like, and it was one of my very best friends who was in town just for the night. And to think about how much time I could have lost if she hadn't just reached over and done that. And I think of that metaphor all the time of just like, Robin, are you doing that thing, or could you just move the chair right now?
Mm.
And it's because it's with you.
I love that. And there's such a good message in that for sure. And then let me ask you so first of all, how old are your two kids? You said you have
they're 13 and 11.
Okay. So how does that play in when it comes to your kids? So let me just give a little more backstory and then see what you think on this. So mine are 23 and 20.
Oh my God, you look fabulous. Good for you.
Thank you. Thank you. And they were just here visiting. So I am from upstate New York, but I'm currently in Florida. So I'm living in Florida right now.
Do I say I'm sorry? Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, Florida. I love you, Florida. I'm just kidding.
I know. It's freaking warm though. Like that.
Yeah, there's that. As somebody in the LGBTQ community, I almost have to say that. I'm just like required. It's like, okay, I said it. I did my part. I did my part, guys.
Yes, I know. I hear you on that.
But you got to live where you got to live. Go ahead. I derailed you. Go ahead.
That's okay. So they were here for a week. Mm-hmm. And so we were talking about how other people's pain or suffering can make you feel uncomfortable and anxious. Mm-hmm. So now 13 and 11 are your two kids. So let's say, for example, that, they're middle school, right? So say there's a party or something and they're not invited to the party. And they're really, really upset. Like, oh, mom, they really wanted to go to the party and they're feeling really shitty about themselves.
Yeah.
Like, how do you make peace with that? How do you move your chair on that?
Yeah.
So that you're not, as a mom, it's like, I feel like you're so connected to their pain and suffering. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I do with other people, but my kids, it's still too hard.
I feel like there's a cross between move your chair and the point we were making earlier about fixing. And I think for some reason, I will say this, I when it comes to my kids, I tend to have this feeling of like we're in the middle of the high school process, and choosing in New York City is very difficult. It's almost more difficult than a college application process. And I have this crazy need to make sure I said to my wife, I said, I need to know that I did every single thing I could so she has the best opportunities in front of her, so that if she doesn't get into any of these high performing, high whatever schools, it won't be because I didn't provide the space for her. So that tends to be where my perfectionism shows up. But I also tend to I really, really, really want them to be able to process and handle things on their own. So in that instance, like the party thing, I would spend a lot of time talking about the quality of your friends,
Yeah.
and who you surround yourself with. Because my whole thing is my funnel or my filter for parenting is always through what wasn't given, like what was given to me that I loved. Keep
Yes.
that. What wasn't given to me or what was bad, get rid of that.
Yeah.
So for me, there was a lot of confidence that wasn't given, or there was a lot of like love that wasn't given, or conversation about certain types of things. So in that case, I would really spend time like talking about how, like who these people are and why do you think that was and what can you do? And then this would be the part that would be really hard, is to not try to fix it and to just say, and for me to just sit back and say, what do you need from me? Like, I know you're upset. What do you need from me? And so I try to do that. Like I spent a bunch of time this morning with my son. He's running this like, Jesus, it's like he's a drug dealer at school with candy. So he takes his money and he goes across the street and he gets a giant bag of like tiny candy bars that for $1.50, and then he sells each one for $0.25. So he's in this like whole profit scheme. And so I thought a lot of parents would be like, no, you shouldn't do that. I just said, the only thing that you can't sell is anything anything that's against the school policy, like gum, lollipops. I said, don't sell those. Okay. I said, and then we had this 10-minute conversation this morning about looking at profit and loss. I said, but you also have to remember what your investment was. I was like, how much have you spent on goods? I was like, but then I was also like, you're just keeping your money all over the house. I said, you're taking it out of your savings to buy this money. I said, but now are you going to spend these random dollar bills in the house? I was like, we got to talk about a system for you to put it back into your account. So I was just like, I'm running it like a small business with him. I was like, how do we turn him into an entrepreneur? So I'm always trying to use the filter of what wasn't given to me.
Yeah.
Or what shouldn't have been given to me.
And that's what we were talking about before we started recording, is how things from our past or, our family histories can, if we're not mindful about making changes, can wreak havoc on our current situation, on our present day. And that's why, like, when I work with people, so I do life coaching and I work with the perfectionist and the people pleaser. And I help them to recognize their patterns, own their shit, because they have to own. You can't be blaming, past the age of, like, let's say 25, no more blaming your parents. It's like now time to, okay, step up, take responsibility, and really going inward. For me, it's such an inward journey to do this inner work, to heal from the pain of the past, to heal it, so that when you're showing up in the present moment, the past is no longer overlaying the present moment. Because we're always I don't want to use always, that's an all or nothing statement, but a majority of the time we are living a pattern and not a life. Would you agree?
It's so funny. I did this coursework called the Hoffman Institute. I don't know if you're familiar with it, with your oh my God. And this is the whole thing. It's like a 7-day retreat and it's very intense. And I don't say it I'm not one of those like, life spring people that's trying to like push an agenda, but it's all about the patterns. And they talk about how until you have like kind of an awareness about this, you are either living into the pattern that your parents gave you, or you're rebelling against it. So you are either like, so let's say that you were raised by a people pleaser mom. And, so there's a reaction like where you just become a people pleaser because you see it, you want to emulate it, and you think she's going to love me if I'm just like her. But then there's also this, I will do the exact opposite because I never, ever, ever want to be like that because that hurt me or that whatever. But in either one of these cases, you have no choice. You have no free will. You are merely either living in reaction to or emulating in order to get someone else's love. And none of that is authentic to who you are. And I think that's an incredible, that work to start to look at like, well, if I strip away the crappy things my parents did, And if I take that's why I say I take the lovely things that they did. My parents were a lot, but I never felt unloved. I
Exactly.
always felt like they said, I love you all the time. And I keep that. And every time my son walks out of this house, I'm talking just sometimes when he goes to the bathroom, he's like, love you. And because I say it all the time, I hug them all the time.
Yeah.
It's because that was one of the things I got that I loved. I did it. I got a lot of yelling, and I'm a yeller, and
Yeah.
it will probably be my life's work to not yell.
Yes.
It's just, I'm a reactor. I'm like,
Yep.
so I think that for me, that's it's one thing to say you're doing these patterns, but it's another thing. What do you do with it? Like,
Yes.
how do you implement it in real time? And that's how I've figured to implement it in my life, is to look at, well, if no one else is around, well, what do I want to do? I don't have to do what was done. What's, there's like a lot of visioning of like, what do I want my life to look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is part of what I help clients to do as well, is to create the life that they desire rather
Yeah.
than to just be reacting to life and just letting life come to them and
You've got to be
happen.
purposeful about it. You
You
have to
have to be.
say, these are the things I want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so
But don't you think that's so amazing though, to be able to separate yourself from your parents or from whoever
yes,
raised you, and to be able to say, okay, well, my mom always had to be the nicest person in the room, but she let everyone run all over her and she was
100%.
never happy. Is that what I want for myself? And to be like, no, I want to be a person who could set boundaries. I want to be a person who'll be like, no, thank you. I don't want to come to your dumb Christmas party. Like,
Yes.
I don't know why I made it a dumb Christmas party, but you get what I'm saying.
I know. Why does it have to be a dumb one?
I know,
But I
right?
hear you. I hear you. And you know what? And you are describing like literally my mom and me. That
Mhm.
was my life. My mom, she also has crossed over, and she did the best that she could do with what she had. And I
Yeah.
know that she loved me. And we're not saying any of that. It's not about, making anything wrong about her. And yet she was just playing out patterns. She was a people pleaser. And so I did the same. And she would say things like, she would have me go to, I think I was like 13, 14 in my teens. And I would have to go to Aunt Rosie's funeral. Like I didn't want to
Oh
go
my
to
God,
Aunt
Rosie's
Rosie.
my mom's name, was my mom's name.
Oh,
That's so funny. And by the way, my sister's name is Kim.
oh
It's
my
so
goodness.
funny.
This is fun. There's so many
Parallels.
synchronicities like that we just have had in this short period of time. It's wild, so wild. But anyway, I would go out of guilt or pressure to
Mhm.
go to Aunt Rosie's funeral. What is a teenager doing going to these funerals? But I was like people pleasing. And my mother was like, well, that's the right thing to do. That's what you're, should be doing. So, and I want to say, and it took me years to undo this people pleasing pattern. I had
Yeah.
to do so much inner work, and I
Yeah.
still can have it show up. So I was saying how my kids were here visiting this past week, and they normally with my kids, it's what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And putting their needs and wants and desires ahead of my own, because that's
Mhm.
what a people pleaser does.
Yeah.
That's what a mom does too, a lot of the times. So, and I've been trying to break out of this pattern for a long time, and I have, and they know it. And this week they came down to visit, and they don't live with me. So I was like, oh, I should take up and be with them every single minute I can. But it was becoming a lot,
Yeah.
being in one house for a whole week. So one day, I guess it was the day after Thanksgiving, they all decided they were going to go and rent a boat. And I had so much freaking FOMO come up because I was like going back and forth in my mind, this internal battle. I really don't want to go, but I should go. I really don't want to, but what if I miss out, and blah, 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 back and
Yeah.
forth, back and forth. I finally decided not to go. And this is how I know that I'm growing and that there's been so much of a shift for me, because I needed to have those 2 to 3 hours to myself to take care of me. I
Yeah.
meditated, I exercised, I journaled, I rested. I just allowed myself to just be. I nourished myself, body, mind, and spirit. I recharged myself. And so by the time they came back, I was my
Yeah.
cup was full and I was
Yeah.
overflowing. Had I gone with them out of scarcity and lack, chances are there could have been, maybe there would have been like a little altercation or a little,
Oh,
back
you would
and
have been
forth.
resentful.
I would have been resentful because it was not a hell yes for me. It was like, oh, I should do this. So what I'm trying to say is patterns can change. You can change them, but
Yeah.
it does take some mindfulness and consciousness to change these patterns that were handed down to us.
Well, and also I think you can make progress, but they will always be your default setting.
Yes, they will.
And it will always show back up. And then you just have to reset. Like that, it's, I mean, I say that like that's an easy thing to do, because it's not. You have to understand that you got yourself back in a place, and then you have to like be pissed at yourself. Oh, I get here again. But then like once you do all that, you have your feelings, then you can go, okay, let me start again.
Yes.
It's like, that's the work. Like, I do think there's this misconception. I'll go to therapy. I'll do this weekend retreat and I will be healed. I will be fit. You're never going to be healed. You're never going to be fixed. And I think we have to normalize saying that it like there are certain things that your parents and not necessarily because they meant to do harm, but just because in the process of raising people, we're human and we make mistakes that will be part of your journey. Like my mom screamed a lot. I scream a lot. I got a temper, and that'll be part of my journy forever. And and that's okay. Well, what can I do? So now I have conversations with my son, and I say to him, because him and I get locked in that a little bit. And, we recently had this whole conversation, and I said, what would you like me to do? I said, you're gaslighting me, because he's like a little lawyer. He's like so freaking smart, and he'll just start like moving it around. And then he's a little bit like Trump, and he'll come around and be like, that didn't happen. I'm like, it happened. I was right here, and then I start getting mad and then I start escalating. So I said, what can we do? What do you recommend? And so he took some time, he thought about it, he came back and he said, I would like you to yell less. And I said, I'd like that too. I said, but here's my thing. I said, when you did this thing at 10 o'clock, and then at 11 o'clock, and then at 12 o'clock, and then by 3 p.m. I've had it. And I said, and then I'm exploding. I said, and I'm not blaming you. I said, so, but what can we do to stop this cycle? And I'm not putting it back on him, because I've got plenty of ideas, but I wanted to see what he would come up with, so he felt some ownership. And he said, well, how about this? How about if I do something? He said, we'll call it steep escalation. And he named it. I was like, steep escalation. I was like, tell me more. And he said, we'll start off with like a 15-minute timeout. And I said, all right. I said, I'd like the timeout to be off screens in your room where you're just thinking. And he was like, I'll allow that. And I said, all right. And I said, so then what comes next? I said, you come back out and we're still there. He said, then we're going to 30 minutes and then directly to an hour. He said, that's the steep escalation. And I said, okay. I said, and I will not yell. He said, but I need for you to calmly tell me. And I said, okay. And so we've tried to implement it, and it's been, like some working, sometimes not working, but I, because he still has his feelings. And so I'll say to him, hey, this is what you said. I said, we need the 15 minutes. And I said, and I am calmly approaching you. I said, but you're still gaslighting me. I said, so what I need is you to go take that 15 minutes and then let's come back together. And the times we've been able to do it, it's worked really well. But I didn't dictate it to him. He created it. And I was so proud of him.
Well, I'm so proud of you. That's so
shut
awesome.
up, Kim.
I know.
Thank you.
I'm so freaking proud of you, because you have just right there changed a generational pattern. The fact that you gave your son the space to say what he needed is huge.
Yeah.
And is he 11 or 13?
He's 11. He's 11. Like, and he can talk about his feelings, and that's something that I'm really proud to have given him, because I didn't have that. I had all the same anger he has, but I had no outlet. So I was just like an asshole. And he is a little bit of an asshole, but he has more ability to say, I am angry and I'm upset for these 5 reasons.
Yes. That's so huge. That's so freaking good that you just give him that space. There, you are breaking a pattern, generational pattern.
I mean, trying, but it proves my point, though, that it's like, it doesn't always work. Like
Yes.
sometimes I'll be like, oh shit, I promised I wouldn't be screaming. Then I'll be like, okay. And then I have to reset myself, or he's still gaslighting me. And then we're head to head, but sometimes it's working, and that's a
Yes.
win in my book. Like you got to take the small wins.
It absolutely. And I just did a TikTok on that just earlier today, because it's
Look
about,
at you dropping the TikTok in there. I love that. I love that.
yes,
I got to follow you.
Okay. Yes, we'll do that. And I'll follow you. We'll do our TikToks. And, but what I was saying on the one earlier is it's about progress and not perfection, because the perfectionist it's that all or nothing thinking. And that anytime you start to do something new or want to change a behavior, you expect yourself to do it perfectly 100% of the time. And that's not realistic. So
it's funny. Like it's like the 12-step slogans and I almost feel like whether you're an addict or not, there is so much. If you can actually follow the 12-step programming, there's so much growth in that work of just looking at yourself and your own responsibility, the ability to be honest. Because if, and again, that's one of the things I say to my kids all the time. Like, I'll talk to you about X, Y, and Z. Like, you did this thing wrong. Like, I'll have a discussion with you, but I will not have the discussion with you if you're going to gaslight me, because I was here, you were here, and I know what happened. So you have to stand with the truth. And that's they're all very big life lessons in the 12-step program.
Yeah. Are you going to spit out a slogan for us? Do you have a favorite slogan?
I mean, I don't really have one, except for I think of the one a lot about that, like if you hear an addict talk about, like, and I equate it to like therapy or the work or the conversations, the work that you're doing on yourself. Like they always say, like your addict is in the corner doing push-ups, waiting for you. Like, so when you fall off the wagon, it's just as big, if not bigger, because it is always with you. And I think that can be really true of a lot of things, of like, if these patterns we're talking about, like your people pleaser is in the corner doing push-ups, just waiting for you to get sort of tired and to doubt yourself and to slip into FOMO about a boat trip. You know what I mean? Like there's no world where your kids come home for a week and that means that you should never leave their side. That's just stupid. Yeah. But yeah, you're not stupid. You're not stupid. But I do that too. Sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, we were just together all weekend. Like, is it bad if I just grab my dinner and go in and watch the World Cup in the bedroom? And then I'll be like, no, it's not. Like, it's okay that like we all have like some downtime. We've been together. Like we went away for Thanksgiving. I'm like, we were together for 4 straight days, no screens, just being with people. Like I'm going to take my little food and I'm going to go in the room and I'm going to go, I love you all. And then I'm going to go watch some World Cup. Like, I'm off the clock. Don't come in here. Exactly.
We're allowed to have that.
Oh, but I go through that too all the time. I'll be like, is it bad? Is it bad if I do this?
Well, because then it comes, for me, what comes up is that, and I know it's faulty thinking, but it's a inner dialogue that I had for a long, long time, that if I was a good mom, then I would be there for, right? If I was
every moment,
mom, then I would be there for every.
Because what wasn't for you, either it wasn't, or it was, and you're emulating it, or you're.
Exactly.
My sister takes 1 million pictures of her family and the holiday cards. And I'm certain it's because that wasn't done for us.
Yes. So
and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I love my sister, and there's nothing wrong with her taking all the pictures, but I question, does she have a choice in it? Is she doing it because she wants to, or is she doing it because she wants to give her child what wasn't given to her?
Exactly. It's coming from some kind of inner lack. It's not, I don't know what's going on with your sister, but I'm guessing maybe, like we were just saying, it's maybe coming from an inner lack. Like you said, she didn't have it, maybe didn't feel, is she younger than you or older?
She's older. And we talk about this a lot, her and I, because, she felt like she didn't always feel loved. And I get that. Yeah. I get that too. It's like,
so she's overcompensating.
Yeah. And I'm sure I overcompensate in many ways as well.
Totally. And that's why I had the mindset of, okay, I just need to be there for them 24/7 and like just ready to. And actually, you know what? My mom was like that. So I think that I'm probably emulating her, because she would just
That's the right way to parent.
Yes, exactly. And it's so not. It's so
Yeah.
not.
And that's the thing is like, if you can step back and you can say, okay, this was done. Is this healthy for me? Is this healthy for my kids? And if you can put that filter on it, then you're making choices about what you saw versus just doing what was done.
Exactly. And I'm also able to now like step back and say, in terms of emulating, do I want, because I have a son and a daughter, well, do I want either of them to repeat the pattern? Do I want them to be that way? And I don't. And even though a majority of their younger lives, they did see me doing that, I'm hoping that now they see me doing it differently, that now I do put my oxygen mask on, just like I did on Friday. I do have a self-care plan in place, that I am important to. My needs, my wants, my desires matter as well as theirs do. So they're seeing more of that now, and they're as young adults. And
you're also teaching them that it's never too late.
It's
at any moment you can make a change, or you can alter your direction at any moment. And I'm a firm believer in that.
I am as well. So we started by saying, when I said we're going to have a great conversation, and you said, what if this isn't a great conversation? It absolutely was. I was engaged the entire time. So it was freaking awesome. But I have 5 rapid fire questions for you.
Okay. Oh my God. I'm so nervous. Okay. I'm not really. I'm okay.
I don't know what's
going to come out of my mouth though. It's risky. I love it. Let's do it. I love it.
That's okay. It's masks off. So 100% authentic and real. What is your favorite food?
Ice cream, candy, sugar.
Let's take the next 20 minutes and we'll just talk about that.
What if I just kept going? Ben and Jerry's, Twix, Twizzlers, Sweet Tarts.
That's funny. Oh,
I'll stop.
Goodness. Okay. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go?
You know, I've always said Greece. I've always wanted to go to Greece to like see all the history and then also lay on the beach.
Yeah. Sounds nice.
I feel pretty good about that.
Okay, cool.
Although I feel like their economy's tanking, but whatever, maybe that's good. Maybe it'll be cheap.
That's a good thing. It'll be cheaper for
well,
you.
I'm sorry, Greece. It's not good for you. Sorry, Greece.
We're so sorry, Greece. What's your favorite way to take care of yourself?
That's not my forte, but I do like to take walks. That really clears my mind. And one of the things that I'm working on is that I've realized I never celebrate myself. Like I'm so like, okay, well, what's the next thing I need to conquer? So what I'm working on is trying to look for small ways to celebrate small wins. So that I feel like it might've been when I booked the Headspace. I was producing it, but when I booked the hosting gig, for the Headspace podcast I do called Dear Headspace, it was one of the conversations I was having with one of my guests on Well Adjusting. Oh my God, too many podcasts. But my producer said, well, how are you going to celebrate that? And I was like, I'm going to take a bath with a bath bomb. And it was just a small thing. Cause I was like, I don't want to celebrate with food. Right. Because I feel like that's actually mean to myself because, I have like food issues. So, so I was like, how can I do that? And I was like, that'll be a nice, relaxing. I put an audiobook on and it was just, and I thought you can do small things and they're enough.
That's a great way to take care of yourself. I love that.
And you get clean. I mean, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win. You get clean. I love it. So if you have a bucket, by the way,
I'm obviously horrible at rapid fire because I'm like, then when I was 3, like, it's like, I'm like the worst at rapid fire.
It's okay. You're doing very well. You're entertaining me. And that's all that I care about. I'm laughing. If you have a bucket list, what's your number one thing? Not everyone has a bucket list.
I don't necessarily have a bucket list, but to me, I'm operating on the like 5% more happy. So like I had this moment once in the shower where I was like washing my hair. I'll never forget where I was standing. And I thought, if I died tomorrow, would I be happy? And I was like, no, I don't know that I would. And I realized it was always because I was always striving and not being in the moment. And so and even my 5% more goal is sort of striving still, but it is to slow down and to be more like, to just be more like looking around and thinking like, this is pretty fucking great right now. Like, and just finding those small moments, because I think that so much of our joy comes in those, like, oh, the leaves are changing, or, oh, it's the holidays and look at my families, it's just like, everybody's happy right now, just finding the joy in those small moments. And I think that will be a life aspiration, but that's definitely like my goal.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that one. I love that one.
Thank you.
Also did a TikTok on being a human being and not a human doing. Be a human being, not a human doing.
I mean, that, like, talk about a life goal.
Yeah, I know. I love it. One more question.
Okay.
Name one book that changed your life.
The Artist Way. The Artist Way. I had just had my first daughter, and I had the book for probably a decade before I actually did it. I did the whole, if you hear my son behind us, my kids must have come home while I'm recording this. I did the full 12-week workbook, and it was just life-changing to claim being an artist, to be looking at myself, and like, they have artist like dates where like, it talk about filling your cup back up. It's just, there's been so many things that I've gotten from that have stayed with me since. And I've given that book to probably 25 people. Like, anytime anyone's in a rut, I'm like, you know what you need? You need The Artist Way. And it just, I can't speak enough about that book. I loved it.
Awesome. So good. So how can the listeners find you? What else do you want to share in terms of what you do? Where can they find you? I know there's a lot of places.
And there's too many places. I always say, if you need more from me, you probably don't. But you can get me on all the social platforms. I'm at Real Rob Hops. Like, I love to do a lot of like little videos there, but that'll point you to, and then Well Adjusting is on all podcast platforms. And like I said, it's conversations like these more tailored toward young people who are like in the middle of a problem, and we're kind of breaking the problem down. And then an expert comes in at the end and gives, I like to say it's somebody with an actual credential comes in at the end and gives a little bit of advice to wind it out, but it has a little memoir component at the top. And I'm so proud of it. And I think there's such real conversations. Like the episode that's up today is about will grief ever subside, and a girl whose mom died when she was 16 and she's 26 and still dealing with it. And so they're just big life conversations similar to this, and this has been so fun. So hopefully your audience would be something that they would enjoy as well. And so I mean, it's like, if you find me on the socials, I'll be telling you all the places to find me. Again, too much.
Perfect. And I will put all of that in the show notes as well. So
thank you.
Oh my God.
This has been such a delightful conversation. What a lovely way to end the day.
It really was a delightful conversation. And from another fellow New Yorker, it was really great to learn that about you as well. And
it was very good for me to learn that Albany's the capital of New York.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
And I'm from there.
That you're from Albany. But thank you for what you're doing with this podcast as well. It's really, I just think anytime we can have these real conversations, it's important for people, because not enough real conversations are happening. So congratulations on your success and what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening to another episode of Masks Off, and I will see you next time.